going to go.
Wait, there we go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's webinar from Anika Digital. My name is Darren Wynn. I'm MD at Anika. So I'm going to be on hosting duties this morning. We've got Pete today. Pete, do you want to say hello?
Hi, yes, I'm Pete Keyworth. I'm going to talk to you about Google Ads management mistakes to avoid. We've all been there and made a few, and I'm sure it's just trying to avoid them and or at least learn from our mistakes. That's always good. So
okay. I've made a few mistakes in my time in PPC. Maybe if we've got time, I can recount some tales, some horror stories. Brilliant. Yes. Okay. I'm going to be running the chat. So if you've got any questions, as always, you can either post them straight into the chat and I'll be talking to people throughout. Or if there's anything I can't answer, which I'm sure there'll be a few, we'll do a little Q&A at the end and ask those questions. Handouts are also available. So in the top right, you can click on handouts and download the presentation. And the webinar recording is sent out couple of hours once we've finished today's webinar. So brilliant. I think that's it for me. Oh, we'll do some poll questions actually first before we start. So I'm going to run some polls just to see what everyone's level currently is around Google Ads and PPC. So I'm going to load the first question now. You should see that pop up on the screen. Question is, how confident are you with your current Google Ads strategy? Very confident, somewhat confident, not confident, and I'm just getting started with Google Ads. I can see some answers coming in now. I think the system has a slight delay on it. It's always worrying when it just stays at 0. I'm getting some feedback my side, Pete. Is it okay your side? Is it just me? Because I'll deal with it if it's just me.
I think it's okay my side. It sounded like somebody moving an arm across the desk, but it seems okay.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've got 27% for somewhat confident. We've got 15% for not confident, and 59% for I'm just getting started with Google Ads. So a lot of people just getting started. Second question, which should come up now. Which of these Google Ads challenges do you face the most often? Struggling to find the right keywords, getting low quality or irrelevant clicks, not seeing enough conversions, unsure how to optimize ad copy and creative, and managing budget and bidding strategies effectively. I can see my dog harassing Anne. Sorry. We're in the office today. Okay, so we've got 16% struggling to find the right keywords, 5% getting low quality or irrelevant clicks, 16% not enough conversions, 21% unsure how to optimize ad copy, and 38% managing budget and bidding strategies effectively. So most people on option B there, managing budget. Brilliant. And last poll. How often do you review and optimize your Google Ads campaigns? Daily, weekly, monthly, rarely? And the last option is someone else manages the campaigns for me. And it looks like we've got 17% daily, 28% weekly, 3% monthly, 42% rarely, and 15% someone else manages the campaign for me. So it tends to be a set to get it for most people. Brilliant. I'm getting some feedback on my side when I talk, and it looks like from the chat that's something that everyone's hearing. So I'm going to shut up and let you talk, Pete, and I'll try and come back at the end. I don't know if I'll be able to fix this, but your side, you're all fine. So I'll disappear.
Yeah. Thank you, Darren. Okay, without further ado, then I'll progress. So a bit about me. I joined Anika 2023. I've been here 2 years now. It's time flies. It's great. I've got 14 years running ads campaigns. So started out in Google Ads when the ads were really small and it was quite easy. And I don't know, it's got more complicated over time for sure. I've got 20 years in digital marketing. I've kind of run search, shopping, YouTube, paid social across pretty much every industry that I can think of, from care homes to e-commerce, fancy dress, furniture, you name it. Dust extraction machines sticks out as particularly dry one, no pun intended there. And yeah, I'm also quite good at Google Tag Manager, GA4. I think if you are running Google Ads campaigns, you need to look at the traffic on the site as well and see what's going on. So that's me. I'm also a twin, so I have a German equivalent. My brother lives in Germany at the moment, so yeah, if you're out in Bavaria and you see someone looks slightly similar, it's my brother. There you go. He doesn't know anything about Google Ads, but that's fine. So what's happened recently? Just a few updates that I've spotted this week. So Google's finally going to allow us to test Performance Max assets. So what that means is we can run experiments within the campaigns on asset groups with images and text and videos versus asset groups without. So that's quite good. They've not had any ability to do any testing for quite a while, well, since the start really. So it's good to see them actually finally rolling that out. There's a new version of Google Ads Manager. So if you've got an MCC account, multiple client accounts, you can add, there's 8 new features that you can add to your account level. So you can do things like add age restrictions for Performance Max. There's a little link on there as well. We've already shared the deck, so you can have a look at that later. And Meta, it's obviously not Google related, but I thought I'd throw it in there, wants advertisers to connect their Google Analytics to help with reporting within the platform, and they're going to give you early access to features in return for going through the steps. So yeah, if you're running Meta ads, it might be worth having a look at that one. And then I just thought I'd talk about a little bit about there's been a bit of a shift in the business confidence. I kind of tend to show these slides when I do a webinar. You can see there's lots of negativity about the economy and the Ukraine war, and there's certain regions in the UK that have got a little bit of a negative business sentiment at this point, according to the ICA EW. If you live in the East Midlands, it's gone right down, but we're not quite as bad as the east of England. And the Scots are happy, so that's all fine there. But I think part of it is just the media talking down the economy all the time. When you look at the actual stats for January in terms of e-commerce retail, it was actually up in January this year, and the last 3 months have been better than the previous, the equivalent 3 months last year. So it's not all bad, and the sun is shining, as Darren mentioned. So there's hope ahead. But one thing that is true, and this is what I see in my accounts, particularly during what we call the peaks, you know, the run up to Christmas, Black Friday, all of those things, the cost of advertising always gets more expensive. So I would suggest to you, if you are having conversations around budgets, always try and, when you set the budget for next year, try and get a little bit more to offset that cost. There's a nice cheeky link at the bottom to Google's anti-competitive practices trial, because they have in the past artificially inflated CPC costs. Who would have guessed, though? I mean, that's how they make more money, isn't it? Anyway, so every day we're spending money. So ultimately, we want to avoid making mistakes, because obviously a daily spend of £100 is 3,100 a month, and then that extrapolates out. So if you leave your mistakes in the account or things that aren't quite working, then you will be wasting money. The account might still overall be performing, but if you drill down into the areas that don't work and make the account more efficient, you'll probably get more back. So mistake one, I guess this is quite easy to do, and I guess if you're short on time, it's very easy to just look at the campaign level performance and think, oh, that's a great ROAS or conversion value / cost, which is how you calculate it in Google Ads. And oh look, I've got lots of clicks and lots of conversions. But there's always a bit more to it. For this particular client, you can see it was going great at the start of January, and then the shopping feed fell over, and then it was a climb back up for about a week, and it wasn't quite as good at the start. So yeah, look at the detail, I would say. You really need to, if you're doing PMax campaign, Performance Max, when you try and look at the asset groups, that's how you divide up your products. You'll see it just shows the data at kind of asset group level. See, there's no graphs. So if you go into your search campaign, you can see a nice graph and see how it's going, but you can't with Performance Max. So what I would recommend that you do is to try and create reports to help you visualize what's going on. So this is a free tool called Looker Studio, so you can connect your Google Ads account to it. And what I've done here is I've just plotted the dates and then plotted the asset group name, and then just picked a stacked area chart, and that gives you a bit more granularity than that first graph. You can see we're spending quite a lot on dining tables at the start, and then it dwindled a bit. So it gives you a bit more of a story at a glance, I guess. So that can be quite useful. And you can do the same for campaigns as well. So this is a kind of a stacked bar chart. So you can see over time, what's the percentage of, the daily clicks are coming from the different campaigns, and you can see the peaks and troughs. So if your manager or if you want to know why a particular category of products or campaign isn't doing as well, this can help without you having to go into the account and then drill into all the details. And you can also look at products versus this year versus last year, and I would recommend that's a good thing to do, because you will see a degree of seasonality. So some of your best sellers might suddenly stop selling, and then that could be why your revenue's down. So and conversely, you may find that you're getting lots of clicks. Well, this one at the top of this table hasn't had many clicks, but it's got clicks and no sales. If you see products with hundreds of clicks and no sales, then that's probably time to kind of look at how you can improve that and optimize it. And if you don't want to really go into Looker Studio, you can create Google Ads dashboards. So what you would do is you would create reports, and then you can create a dashboard and add in the reports, or you can go straight into dashboards and create reports from there. And you can do things like look at the cost versus last year, and then the conversions, all that sort of thing. So that can be quite useful. So yeah, you have Spark lines that you can set up. And then another one that I like to do, which stops you not noticing when things aren't going well, if you're busy, is that you can create a dashboard within Looker Studio and put all your different channels in there. So you could have Google Ads data and then GA4. So obviously there's a bit of a lag with Google Ads conversion data coming in, but you can see GA4 data as well. And then you can look at the same period last year. So you can go, actually, when half term last month happens, it always dies that time of the year. So that's why we've seen a bit of a dip at this point. And then another thing that you can do, I think bidding was mentioned on the surveys. If you're not very, if you make random bidding choices or use the same CPA or ROAS target, so cost per acquisition, so that's cost per lead, or return on ad spend target for everything, it doesn't always make a lot of logical sense, and you'll see why in the next slide that is. Particularly if you're doing shopping campaigns, you will find if you actually look at you get to the point where you can understand what these products cost to buy, you can see the margins are very differently. So you can work out that you shouldn't really have to give them all the same ROAS target in this example. So you could potentially just bucket them by the margin amount and see and see more revenue overall and more sales if you just push the products differently with different targets. And also what you will find is that the first sale that you get, you probably could afford to drop the the cost per acquisition or the ROAS target, because you can anticipate that you may get sales from future business. And there's a little Google video there, which is, I was surprisingly I was pleased how surprisingly easy it was to calculate lifetime value using a 5-minute video and a Google sheet. So probably worth having a look if you are interested in that. I appreciate that some of you may just have products or services that people typically buy on a one-off, but if you do have repeat customers and repeat business and you've got enough data, it might be worth going down that route. So if you're bidding for revenue, or you've passing in your lead value and you're bidding for lead revenue value, then what you will find within your Google Ads campaigns is that the recommendations are always trying to get you to lower the ROAS. So what I would say is just look at the amount that it's suggesting. So if you're currently at 700% and you go down to 560, what you'll find is you'll get an extra 3.14k revenue, but it'll cost you £425 more. So that's that would lower the overall ROAS that you're achieving. But I think that's probably not too bad a suggestion. But some of them that I have seen are really quite wild. So they know what the campaign setting is, but they'll suggest you should go down to 300. Think of all these extra, conversion value you get, but it will really limit it. It will have an negative impact on the overall ROAS of that campaign. So yeah, do it sensibly. Probably do it incrementally if you are changing bids, and when you do change the ROAS, expect to kind of probably leave it for a couple of weeks while the system equates to the new target. You don't want to keep making radical changes, because it won't really help you get the results you're looking for. And then in terms of, that's the point I was making. Just avoid drastic changes. And then if you are using manual CPC bidding, and another tip is that I found it on an account that I've had fairly recently, where we have some campaigns with manual bids, just because the budgets are really low. And I found some hidden bid adjustment modifiers for location, device, and audience, and they were all like plus 70, plus 120, and then plus something else. And that was just making the average cost per click in that campaign so much more expensive. So I took them out and then started with a higher base bid, and then monitored it. So yeah, be wary of the hidden bid adjustments. If you are using smart bidding, you don't necessarily have to worry about those. Yes, you don't want any angry bid adjustments, rage monsters coming to get you. So the other mistake you can do is to run the same ad copy and creatives for too long. We've all seen it, particularly on social media, where you've got you keep seeing the same ad and it becomes annoying, and you just then switch off from the brand. The same applies in Google Ads, really. If you're running YouTube campaigns, you should check out the frequency of the view rate, and then the video completed percentages. So the first week that you run the campaign, you may find that people watch to the end, and that's a sign that you're hitting the right audience. But if that then dwindles over time because you're showing the same people the same video, it's time to adjust maybe your budget, widen, change the audience, or change the creatives. So yeah, bear that in mind. And then for search ads, if you've set up your campaigns and you've not changed them recently and the ads are the same, what you might see is dropping click-through rate, and dropping the conversion rate over time as well. So at that point, you probably want to look at the impression share on the campaign and the ads, and go onto Google and then have a look at the competitor ads and see what they're saying, because it might be that your ad copy is quite stale and they've come up with fresh ideas, and they've spring's here now. People are thinking of gardening and kind of spring related activity. If your message is still generic and not seasonal or not tailored in any way, and has not been refreshed recently, then you're going to get ad fatigue. And there's a blog at the bottom which got a bit more on that for you. And then copy and creative tips. So I'd suggest that where you've got enough data within the campaigns is just try creating advert variations. So if you've got an ad that's running for a while, create another one, and then over time monitor performance. You can do this more scientifically with an ad, with an experiment within the campaign. So that's a Google Ads experiment where it will give you you can split test different variations against the other ones. And then in terms of performance max, you do need to refresh that as well. If you've got the same images for products that you've always had for ages, and the website's actually got new imagery and you've not updated the ads, then that's a good opportunity to do it. And it's also a good opportunity to every 3 to 6 months just come in, look at the images, see which ones are getting low ratings, high or average, and then just replace the lower ones to try and improve the performance. The same applies for search image extensions as well. Not so much with search, because I think the data that you will find for the image asset click-through rate is influenced by the bid and the keyword relevance. But if you find there's images in there that don't get served very often, or they haven't been refreshed, just to update them. And then video assets, make sure you're using all the different formats as well, so you can reach new users and inventory and keep widening your base. And to make your ads more relevant, some of the things you can do is you can add things like ad customizers. So there's a few here. So you've got keyword insertion. So instead of just having a headline, you can have brackets and then put your default text keyword in there, and that will make the ad seem more relevant. If you've got a sale countdown, timers are good. And then if it's location specific, or you want your ad to appear more more relevant to the user's location, then you can add a location extension. So ad copy tips, then just think about the kind of quality, the message quality as well as the price if it's e-commerce, or sometimes you could try ads with just messaging about the quality of the products and then let them click through on the price. If you've got review ratings, try and get those linked up to your Merchant Center accounts, and they should hopefully start to show. Think about your USPs, and then if you've got any promotion codes that you're running, I always add them in the headlines and descriptions, because the promotion extensions don't already show. And then a good way to try and get people who've clicked on your site and then potentially searched again, or searching for similar things, is just use remarketing audiences as well for abandoned cart or basket users to get them to come back and convert. So number 4, then, mistake: fail to look at the recommendations tab. And this recommendations tab, I think if you've seen it in the Google Ads interface, is a little bit divisive. So I would say it's worth looking at. Some of the recommendations are useful if you do speak to a Google rep. If you're lucky enough to have that opportunity, then they will always try and get you to go into this area and improve your Opti score. So some of them are good. Things like improve your asset groups is good. Refresh your customer match lists. That's your email database lists. That'll help ensure that your ads are more visible to the people who have either on your newsletter list or have bought before from you. And then the most useful categories are I think improve your asset groups, customer lists are mentioned, add different video orientations. That makes sense. And then if you've got products, you can add GTINs to data to the products. So it's just like a unique, it's like an ISBN book number equivalent. It's a unique code that's relevant to your product. It'll increase the visibility on shopping searches. And then fix disapproved site links. So there's some of the ones that are relevant, and the ones a little bit more contentious or used with caution is adjust ROAS targets. We've mentioned this already. Well, they'll always ask you to go down to increase reach and revenue, but if you know what the margin is, and Google really won't factor that in. And then broad match keywords. If you if you are using broad match, you just need to be very careful with them, because they can they can, by their very nature, or even the name, be a bit too broad and go beyond what you necessarily want to show for. And Google will also talk about the smart bidding and broad match should help you get the right clicks. But if you look at the search terms, it doesn't always work like that. Yeah, and then add dynamic images. I've found before, when I've turned that setting on, that I just end up with images that aren't relevant to the ads that I'm promoting, the products that I'm promoting or services. And sometimes clients screenshot it and send it to you. Did you add this image to this ad? I was like, no, that's a dynamic one. So yeah, just if you turn it on, just have a look at what sort of images it is adding within the settings, and then adding keywords. So this one at the bottom is, they sell mini greenhouses, and it's suggesting add aluminium frame greenhouse. But if you search for that on Google, you get the big greenhouses. And from the data, I've seen that those terms generally don't convert as well, because we're showing a smaller version. So it's better to go with the terms that are size specific in that example. So another thing you could potentially do wrong is do everything that Google tells you to do. I do go on a lot of Google calls, and they do generally talk about broad match and using smart bidding, and I understand why, because if you widen your reach, you're potentially going to reach more customers. But also, if you optimize for a lower ROAS or a lower CPA, or higher CPA, sorry, you might not get the results you want. So broad match mentioned already, it can sometimes work. It's a little bit like Marmite. I would recommend don't use it with broad match with manual bidding. It works better with smart bidding, really, because I think if you look at the search terms when you're using manual bids, like manual CPC and broad match, compared to with it smart bidding, they seem to be more relevant. I think the smart bidding is a little bit more tailored to go in towards the broad match phrase, where manual bidding can go a little bit wider. And then you need to add negative keywords and monitor your search queries as well, if you do go down the broad match route. And then performance max, you don't necessarily always have to use it. I think it's good when you want to expand and you want to kind of reach new customers beyond just search. So if you don't know, in particular, that performance max will show on Google Shopping placements, display, YouTube, Gmail. So it's quite a wider reach than standard shopping. So standard shopping is probably better for you if you've got limited ad budgets. You don't have the resources to build assets. You don't necessarily have to create asset resources or images or videos when you set up Performance Max. But if you want to have more control over your ad budget or your campaign short term, shopping can sometimes work better. Yeah, so expanded reach with Performance Max, it can help you reach, get increased sales, and there are real-time data signals that the campaigns are optimizing towards. And then the negative thing is obviously loss of control, because you can't really control how much you spend on YouTube or display versus the actual shopping placements. And you've got limited data visibility. And sometimes it can be a little bit confusing as well as that. Remember the first example I showed, the asset groups, they don't show any graphs in there. It's almost like they're trying to hide the data so you can't easily get to it. But there is a bit of a tip at the bottom. If you want to be able to exclude negative keywords from your Performance Max campaigns, if you look at the settings in PMax, you can see which keywords that the ads have shown up for. And if you see anything in there, you can now exclude it at campaign level. Before, you could only exclude it at account level. So if you want that feature, just ask your Google Ads rep to add Performance Max campaign level negative keyword lists. What a mouthful, but there you go. It's quite useful. It can help you steer the system towards traffic that's more relevant. So yeah, another thing you can do is just bury your header in the sand and pretend AI isn't something you should do. I think, yeah, you need to be using AI and not doing everything manually ultimately. And we've certainly done a few webinars at Annika on the subject. So it can help you with every step of your ads activity, from planning and your research and audiences and keywords, and keywords bucketing in terms of user intent. It can help with that. And then ideas on ad copy as well. If you've got a website that's not got a particularly great range of unique selling points on there, sometimes you can use the tool to give you ideas on the types of messages you should look to add into your ads, and maybe even go back to the website and update them. And then you can also help with reporting. So I've seen some in-platform, some ad platforms are giving you the opportunity to use AI within the interface now, so that's quite good as well. I'm expecting to see more of that as we go through the rest of the year. There's new updates, certainly in the US, and using Gemini within the platform. So it'd be good when that rolls out in the UK. So if you are doing keyword research or particularly any kind of AI activity, it's always down to the quality of the prompt that you put in. So you've got to give it enough detail. There's no point to say, give me a list of 20 keywords for Annika Digital. If you actually explain a bit more about the business, what you do, who the actual keywords should be aimed at, when you do that kind of AI prompt, it will give you better results. So just put time into the descriptions, and then you'll get more from it. And then this is just a little bit of how Microsoft Ads is ahead of Google at the moment. So there's an AI feature in Microsoft Ads where you can get it to just give you a summary of the performance for the last month. Just click a button and it will generate that, and then you can ask different questions at the bottom. Whereas on the left, Google Ads is still just showing you insights based on your click and the search interests. And that's great, but you can't interrogate it at this point. I'm expecting to see that change within probably this year. So we'll be able to ask AI directly within the ad platforms. Then another big mistake to make is just kind of focus on your own activity and not look at what competitors are doing. It is a real time auction, advertising. So you're up against competitors and they dictate how much you pay per clicks. So if you fail to look at what they're doing, you're missing out ultimately. So the things to look for is on your own campaigns is to review your impression share, not just the impression share. Look at the top impression share. So how often do you appear in the top 3 positions, and then your absolute top. If you find that you've got a brand campaign running and your impression share is high, but you don't appear at the top very often, or the absolute top, then you've got competitors bidding all over your brand name, and you're probably going to be losing business as a result. So the other thing to do is look at the CPC changes within the account. So if your brand terms have suddenly got more expensive, there could be new competitors on the market. I've got a fairly new client that does envelopes, and their main competitors decided to split in 3. So we've noticed that the impression share is now getting squeezed as they're all trying to outbid each other to kind of gain market share. So that's the sort of thing that can have a significant impact on impressions, clicks, and sales. And then the things you can do outside of impression share are monitor your price competitiveness. If you're doing e-commerce, you can look at, are your competitors running any offers at the moment, and that can impact on the click through to your site. And then you can look at competitor ad copy and use third-party tools to look at traffic and potentially spend. So this is Google Ads Auction Insights. You can see that's the impression share, and then the competitors. A good tip is to segment by week, or sometimes even day, and you can see the variation over time. So you might see e-commerce expo might suddenly increase their their budgets or lower the ROAS, and that can have an direct impact on your clicks and visibility. Yeah, and then what I like to do as well is when you are looking at ad copy and what they're doing is look at the competitor landing pages as well on the sites and see what they're doing as well, because it's not just the ads that you're running, it's the landing page experience that's really going to make a difference. Yeah, so, and then you can use ChatGPT or other AI tools to help you gather all this information. And then there are third-party tools that you can use. This one's SimilarWeb. It's quite expensive, but it does give you a very visual and also data-driven insights into what's happening over time with the various competitions. Some of them might be spending more over certain months, and then they might drop off, and you can see the volatility of the market or have the market variations throughout the year. And there's also other tools that you can use, things like this one's Ahrefs, which has got similar data, so you can look at average organic traffic and also paid traffic and paid keywords and ads. So there are various different ones that you can use to access this data. And then, yeah, there's other ones. So I'm not necessarily a fan of this. This guy, Kenshu, is another one. It's very expensive. It does give you some additional insights. You can sign up for demos with some of these, so it probably make your mind up if you're interested in trying those. And then the main free one that I like to use is you can just look at the ads on Google and click on the three dots and then get to Google's Ads Transparency Center and just see the ads right there. And then so you can look at what kind of networks they're running. You can widen or narrow the date range and just see what's currently active rather than necessarily have to keep searching and looking for it. So that's quite useful. And then just to give you insights, there are other platforms as well. So there's Facebook's got an ad library, Pinterest's got one, Microsoft Ads, and TikTok. So the data is all there if you want to go and have a look. So for me, one of the big things if you are running e-commerce is if you've got a product feed and all you've ever done is just uploaded it and not looked at how you can improve it, I think you're missing out really. So your feed is essentially what dictates the visibility on Google Shopping. So if you've not actually looked at the errors within the platform, there might be some of your top products that aren't running anymore. But if your descriptions are a bit brief or you're missing key information, then you're probably missing out on impressions and clicks. And if you think with every shopping feed you can have for free clicks, free shopping listings, by improving the feed for paid activity, you'll get more clicks from that as well. And then within the Merchant Center platform, you've got visibility areas where you can improve the performance of your feed as well. So there's shopping scorecard, and there's recommendations in there about if you make some strategic business decisions to kind of look at your delivery speeds. And it might even be that your delivery speed messaging is out of date versus what's on your website. So do check that. And then if your delivery costs are significantly more than the competition, if you're able to kind of drop those as well, then that can help improve your overall score. And the score does help improve performance on shopping as well. And to improve the quality of your feed, obviously you can just update the attributes on your website. So you can start with the e-commerce website here, or you can install a better feed plugin and then start adding in attributes. Or you can make bulk updates in the feed and then upload those. And then other things you can do within Merchant Center itself. So your website feed goes into Merchant Center. You can add feed rules, a Google Sheet supplementary feed to add in missing bits of data, or you can manually edit the items within the platform. So the Merchant Center, your feed ultimately goes from your website into Merchant Center and then to Google Ads. So there's various things you can do to improve it. And within Merchant Center, you can create rules, so you can append attributes to the title in the top example. So if there's find and replace various values and then append the name of the brand within the title. And then at the bottom, there are various options that you've got. So you can prepend, append, and all the different things there. So you can do quite advanced things without having to pay for third-party tools, I think. And then the examples of things that you can do is insert attributes into the titles and descriptions. You can have short titles for mobile, custom labels that you can create based on attributes. So if you've got a sale price within the feed, you can create a sale label and then use that in your campaign to segment out and show your products. And then over the last 12, 18 months, I think this is probably the biggest mistake you can make outside of your Google Ads campaign that has such a massive impact. If your cookie banner doesn't work and you fail to test it properly, your campaigns will just be missing a ton of the revenue that they're potentially generating, and the smart bidding will struggle. You'll end up in a kind of a negative spiral. So the settings to check is if you've got a cookie banner on your site, you need to make sure that when they hit the site, they have to accept it. If it floats at the bottom, you've got a problem. And if they can view every page on the website without clicking on it, that's a problem in general. And then the other thing is if you've not classified the cookies correctly, or if you accept the cookies for ads and the ad storage is still blocked, then your ads activity is not going to get the recognition it deserves. So within Google Ads itself, it'll give you some clues on what to look for. So it'll say things like your consent mode's not implemented, or you might find your ROAS drop in after the point at when you went live with your cookie banner. If you've done it fairly recently, or you did it last year, it might be worth looking at that. And then the other thing you can do to offset the cookie loss is to set up an enhanced conversions for your conversion actions. So what that does is it'll help pass anonymous conversion data back to Google Ads for conversions that you may have lost if the user said no to cookies when they arrived on your site. Yeah, and then just look at maybe the wording. If you've got a big wall of text like this one here, that can sometimes put people off. Obviously, it still needs to be compliant, but if it's shorter and friendly, then people might just go, okay, I'll just accept it. And then this is the ad storage thing. So the user here is filled in the form, which is the Ninja form submission, but the ad storage is blocked on there. So that's not tracking properly within Google Ads. Yeah, and then number 10, failure to review your landing pages. So if you've got a high spend on a service or a product within Google Ads and you're sending them something like this, then you can expect it to not necessarily perform very well. If you look at that, that's the image, and there it is there. It doesn't look great, does it? So a better image, if you were able to do it for that product, would help your ad campaigns perform better. And then look, if you're running lead gen ads or search campaigns and your pages look like this, you can start to, if you actually look at the pages and start to kind of break them down and look for areas where you can improve it, then when your ad traffic lands on the site, you're going to see a more benefit from having a better experience. You're going to see more conversions, I think. And then there are technical checks. So watch out for the gremlins. So you'll find at times that page load speed will have a significant impact. So if you're not looking at wider than just the Google Ads campaigns, you're probably going to miss out. And then the checkout process, it's good to test this regularly to make sure it's still working. If there are issues with the payment method, it will have a detrimental impact on campaign performance. And then if you are at a period when there is high demand, you need to make sure that your site hosting is good enough to cope. And then Google Ads, it's very easy to create a single campaign with all your products, or a single search campaign with all your keywords, and just leave it at that. But I would say that's probably under segmenting. But on the other hand, you need to make sure that if you do decide to create multiple campaigns within the account, one of the recommendations, and strictly you don't have to stick to this, I think 15 is the minimum, but they do say that ideally you should aim to have 30 conversions per campaign over a 30-day period. If you've got 15, I think smart bidding will still work, but if you have like 9 different campaigns and some of them have got 2, 3, 5 conversions, and you're trying to use smart bidding, you might find that is limiting the performance. So if you do see that situation, then you could potentially just consolidate some of the campaigns, or you could use a portfolio bidding strategy with the same, so all of the campaigns within that portfolio bidding strategy would go after a target cost per acquisition or a target ROAS, and they collectively, all the conversion data would work together towards that target, and that can be one way of getting around the limited conversion problem. So in terms of when you should segment, obviously the logic dictates if you've got products or services that are vastly different, and for vastly different audiences, that can make sense to kind of segment them out. If you want to control the budget on a particular service or product, then that makes sense. And then if you've got geographical targeting, I would say geographical targeting, use with caution. If you try and run a campaign in a small 10-mile geographical area, you may find that there's not enough market size within that for you to get enough conversions. You might find that you'll get a few conversions over 6 or 12 months, but it will stop you from being able to use smart bidding. Whereas if you go for obviously larger geographical areas, it's going to work better. And then profit margin, when you've got the varying profit margins I mentioned earlier. And then if you do know that you need different ROASs or different target CPAs, or even the products have different conversion rates, you can break down the campaign based on that. So yeah, I mean, one of the things you can do in terms of shopping is you can use asset groups within the campaigns, and then add images to them. And then obviously you need to make sure that you're adding audience signals and creative assets if you want to reach a wider audience base. And it's also important to kind of test different asset groups, so you can go with assets and then without. So in terms of segmentation, then if it is product based, you could optimize based on performance. So you could take your best sellers, put them in a campaign, give them the budget, and then you could potentially have a supporting products campaign where these products generally do get sales, and then the ghost products are the ones that never get sales. You could put them in a different campaign and treat them differently with a higher ROAS, because what you typically find is if you've got loads of products with 1 or 2 clicks and they spend lots over a 30-day window, that can sometimes waste a lot of money. And then the villain products, the ones that really don't work, you really need to treat them differently as well. But there are so many different ways to segment your products, rather than just having one campaign with everything in. So you can base, some of the options on the screen. So you can look at how quickly things are selling, whether the products are price competitive, whether the average order value for this particular service is higher than the others. So that can help steer you as well. And then if you want to be able to segment your shopping feeds, you can use feed labels, and you can quite easily do the performance-based example that I mentioned a few slides ago by adding data into your Merchant Center account. There's a Google Sheet connector that allows you to pull in GA4 or Google Ads data And what you can do with that is you can get revenue from the last 90 days in a column. And then if you use this complicated lookup here, it's basically saying if you can then start to label the kind of the ROAS bands based on the revenue value. So you can use the revenue value to then create labels, which you can put into your feed. So a lot covered there. Hopefully some of that was useful. I think to kind of take away, mistakes are definitely easy to make, but I think if you monitor the areas in the tables below it carefully, then it's really going to help. So if you are running keyword-based campaigns, make sure the keywords are relevant. Look at the search terms, every week if the spend's quite high, or every 30 days if it's lower, to see if there's anything you can exclude. And then if you do have keywords that only get 10 clicks a week, it's good to look at maybe six months or 3 months or longer to see whether when you look at a wider set of data, whether those actually are worth continuing with. Because if they spend a lot over a course of the year but not very much every month, and they don't perform, then get rid of them. We've mentioned the website issues. Make sure you focus on that. And then in terms of your bid strategies, always make sure that the targets that you set up make sense to your business. Don't be swayed by Google, and then keep your structure as complicated. Well, as make your structure sensible based on the amount of conversion data within your account versus the differences in return or performance of the activity. And then don't be afraid to kind of optimize campaigns based on what you're seeing as well. And then reports, I think they're invaluable. Daily reports, weekly reports that come to your inbox if you're too busy to go into the campaigns to manage them. And then the last one there is just don't be afraid to kind of add in new approaches. So if you've tried the same thing for a while, and if you have a kind of maybe a 5% test budget for your campaigns, you can try new things and you might find that it works better. And then ads, just make sure they are as good as they can be, and you give them attention, and look at your competition and make sure that their messaging, it doesn't stand out more than yours, and your ads look good when they're positioned together. If your ads are stale and the competitors, sometimes they'll be saying things about we're better than the competition. You need to be monitoring that and working out how you can make your activity better. So that's broadly it. And then I think anything to say, Darren, from your end? You mentioned you might mention some ads mistakes you've made.
Oh, we don't need to talk about that. We do have some questions. Maybe
Right.
I'll look out another time. My feedback seems to have dropped slightly, but I'm aware that there are some. It's coming back now.
Okay.
There are some Q&A questions. If we can answer those quickly.
Got it.
Have you got Q&A in your version top right?
I can only see the slides at this moment. I can stop sharing. Shall I? Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, stop sharing, and then it just avoids me talking too much. If you can have a quick scan. The first one, maybe from Mark, about does PPC have an effect on organic, and how do I manage the budget for seed keywords?
Paid traffic does have an effect on organic, in that if you're running ads and you've returned the keywords that you already rank well for, you might take organic traffic away with your ads. So I guess review which keywords you rank for. If it's brand terms, for example, and you find that nobody's bidding on your brand name, you might not necessarily need to run brands campaigns. That's one way of doing it. Okay. Yeah, so when I pause, your organic leads seem to dry up. Yeah, and then also if you drive more paid activity, that can also influence the amount of organic traffic as people will search for you again. So I think you have to be a little bit careful. So whilst paid traffic doesn't automatically impact on your keyword rankings, it does impact on organic traffic. So if you spend £1,000 on ads, you'd expect to see more organic clicks because people have got more interest in your brand or your activity. So that when they search, they're looking out for you. Hope that one helps a little bit. Any others on there?
We've got a quick one about some struggle with, let me get my Q&A back, verifying a Google profile. Have you ever encountered any issues with that?
Yeah, is this some Google My Business profile potentially? I'd probably say, yeah, I'd probably reach out to Google support and see if they can help, or kind of messages with a bit more detail after this, and we'll see if we can point in the right direction.
I think that might be the best way to go about it with these things. Sometimes it's a turn it off and on again, or come back tomorrow, and it seems to work. Yes. One more question, an age-old question, which I've also already kind of answered, but bidding on brand phrases, pros and cons?
So if you look at the impression share in your campaign of your brand ads, if you are running any, and you see lots of people all over your brand name, then I think you almost do have to run brand ads to avoid missing out on those sales. I think the cons are that if you always try and be top of the page with your brand activity, the cost can go up with competition. You can also take traffic away from organic traffic away for brand terms as well. So if you rank, obviously you will rank for your brand name, but if there's not many ads showing, if you over index on the brand activity, that can take traffic away. So I think there's a sweet spot in terms of how much you should spend on brand ads. If you monitor traffic to your homepage, I think when you're running the brand campaigns, if you find that the traffic to the homepage from organic is going down when you're spending more on brand ads, then you probably need to spend a little bit less. It's quite difficult. I think brand exact terms are probably where you can afford to not spend as much. I think it's brand phrase terms. So if your brand name plus products. So if you sell dining furniture or something, and it's Dave's Dining Furniture, if you don't bid on Dave's Dining Furniture, then you will probably lose impressions and clicks because people will be bidding on that. So yeah, it's a tricky one, but I would say if you've got the budget, it's something you do have to do, but just don't over index or don't overspend on brand terms. So monitor organic traffic and the impact.
Brilliant. Right, thank you, Pete. That was really interesting. It's 10 o'clock. I will just ask briefly if you've got some time just to leave a review for us. It goes a really long way in helping us, and we'll both appreciate that. We can do that. Next week, we've got Holly talking. Holly's going to be talking more about shopping ads and visibility for feed optimization. So that'll be a really good one. I'm going to stop subjecting everyone to my awful feedback on this mic and probably have to go buy a microphone or something. Thank you, Pete. That was awesome. Have a good weekend, everyone. Hopefully we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.